Hi everyone, welcome back to everybody. Thank you for returning. Today I have Irina from Fiber Chats who I'm going to be interviewing. So welcome in everybody. As always, when I do my interviews, I don't welcome everybody in individually because obviously I want to concentrate on my guest. And if we have time towards the end, I will see if anybody has any questions for Irina. So I've been really looking forward to this interview, and I hope you enjoy it, guys. And thank you all for being here. So I'm going to bring up Irina now from Fiber Chats. So welcome, Irina. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on your channel.
It's a pleasure. It's usually we were just saying before we went live that it's usually the other way around. It's Irina who interviews everybody else, isn't it, Irina?
Right. It's strange to be on the other side of the table.
I know. So first thing I want to ask you is, can you tell us and everyone in the chat when your journey started within the fiber community? So when did you become a part of YouTube and the fiber arts, so to speak, knitting? Obviously, do you crochet?
Just a little bit. Like I'm mostly a knitter. Well, it's all started relatively recently. So I started to knit 5 years ago. And then 2 years ago, I decided, well, almost 2 years ago, I decided to try my hand at YouTube. And since then, I interviewed 200 people. So it's been a busy 2 years in my life.
And have you all the people that you've interviewed? I mean, I know you've interviewed people from all over the world, really, haven't you? From Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe, America. This lady is also interviewed, believe it or not, guys, the infamous Stephen West. So if you've not, check out Irina's channel, because the interview with Stephen was brilliant. So that was you've got that feather in your cap, so to speak, as we say.
Well, that was a long time dream of mine, to talk to Stephen and see how he comes up with his ideas and how he manages all the things that he does. So
I know. And what drew me to Stephen was his love of colour, because my background is, before I joined the fibre arts, my background is mixed media and paints and that. So that's what drew me to him, all his play on colour and how he incorporates the colours into his shawls and all the different shapes he creates.
Right. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. So welcome in, everybody. So Irina, I'm going to start with the questions now. Okay, you ready?
As ready as I get, I guess.
Okay. So from when you started your journey in this community, have you seen a change with regard to how people perceive people's perception of the yarn in general? So if you from the 2 years that you started, from when you started to now, have you seen a change how people what people's perception is of yarn?
Well, to me, it's not about, I don't know if I'm qualified to talk about the change in perception necessarily, but what I see, that there is yarn for everyone. There is no right or wrong yarn. And I see people doing the most amazing thing with the most expensive, luxurious yarns. But I also see fiber artists who work exclusively with acrylics and create like fabulous fiber art with that. So I just came from Vogue Knitting Live, and I've met Steve Tassido there. He's a fiber artist and designer from Barcelona, and he works almost exclusively with acrylic acrylic yarns. And they are like the funkiest, cheapest yarns you can find. So he was saying that his favorite yarn costs €2 per skein. but he creates like true masterpieces with it. So to me, this is the most interesting thing, because you have people who only use superwash, you have people who only use non-superwash, you have people who are into organic yarns, you have people who are in recyclable yarns. So it's
Hmm.
like there is something for everyone nowadays in the market.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, really, isn't it? Because not everybody's purses can stretch to the expensive yarns, but you can still create masterpieces with yarn from Hobby Lobby, from Michael's, with your cottons, with your acrylics. So, as you say, there is yarn out there for everybody. And you can create the most amazing pieces of work. Some of them are masterpieces and should be hung up on walls, really, shouldn't they?
Yeah. And I remember like my very first Shetland lace shawl, I knitted with recycled cashmere that was somebody just took an old sweater and unraveled it, and I knitted the shawl with it. So it's like you can do that as well. So you
Yeah.
can work with yarn on every budget pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you can pick up some really good bargains at Goodwill, or here in the UK we call them charity shops.
Right.
You can pick up and kind of take what's the word I'm looking for? Frog them, and reuse them and make something totally different from what you purchased. So yeah, it's very true that. So what's your favorite project? Oh, I really shouldn't ask this, but what is your favorite project to make, and what stitch or stitches are your go-to for any project
I
if you're
love,
making?
right. I love knitting lace. I probably do like 50% of all the projects that I make are probably lace. And it sort of became like almost an Olympic sport for me, because the longer I knit lace, the thinner yarn I use and the thinner needles I use. So I started with like lace weight, then it went to cobweb, now it's gossamer, and I'm eyeing ethereal lace, which is like 6,000 meters per 100 grams. So this is like on my
Wow.
list of things to do, is like to conquer ethereal lace. But it's something about lace, it slows you down, it forces you to concentrate on what at hand. So I find it also very meditative, very healing. So at times, like,
Therapeutic.
yeah, because like we've been stuck at home for this COVID and stuff, and there is less ways to communicate with people. So it sort of, helps you to deal with depression. It helps you to deal with all the uncertainty of the world.
Yeah.
You can't think about like a zillion things when you're knitting lace. It forces you to concentrate on lace itself, So there is certain beauty to that.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you take a step back and not because life is such a fast paced,
Right.
isn't it? Such fast paced.
But then, of course, I love mixing up the projects. So I like to just take whatever I have leftover fingering weight and just knit some fast shawl or make a hat out of it, So I mix and match. Like I do a long time lace project and then it follows by like chunky hat or something, So there is not really a true passion for one kind of projects in my life. I like to try them all and mix them all.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think you would ever try crocheting with lace? Oh,
I have like a high admiration for people who make doilies.
mm-hmm.
Just sort of, I don't know why I find crocheting patterns so unreadable, because they all go into the circle and it's like I don't know if I'm going this way or that way. So one day I'll conquer it. One day I'm going to challenge myself to like just learning how to read the patterns, because I
Yeah.
know all the stitches of crochet. I just sort of like I need one more step to get to be competent with that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I always say as well, if you can read a knitting pattern, you can read a crochet pattern. The only difference is the different stitches, the way that the stitches are hyphen, abbreviated and that. So I'm sure you will master it. I'm really, really sure you definitely will master that.
Thank you.
Um, then moving on to notions. So, what are your 5 favorite notions that you have and cannot do without?
I mean, 5 is a lot. I don't know if I can pull all 5, but I love really sharp scissors. I feel like they're crucial to have
Oh, yeah.
everywhere because just like it makes all the difference. Like it doesn't pull on the yarn, it just makes your life easy. And then I have very favorite markers. So they call loop markers. They
Oh,
have
yeah.
this.
With the little loop.
So the reason I love this, first of all, they don't catch on anything.
Mhm.
Secondly, because of the loop, you can put it on any size needles.
Yeah.
So you can need like really chunky kind of project with that, but you can also need like really fine lace with that because the loop itself is like almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So it
It's
doesn't
almost
take
as
any.
fine as the lace that
So it
you knit it with.
Right. So it doesn't stretch the lace. So you can use it on gossamer and it doesn't stretch it in between the stitches because otherwise, if you use thicker um, markers, there's like a little gap in it and even blocking doesn't cover it. So I like to use the loop markers for the fine lace.
Mhm.
But I also love just the way they look because they're like so cute
So
and beautiful.
pretty. I actually I went out and after I saw because everybody knows that I'm doing my first Shetland lace. So when after I saw yours, I went out and purchased some like yours because I didn't have any, and I thought I must change.
I feel like they make a difference. And like once you use them, you'll use them for everything because you can use them definitely on thicker projects.
Yeah.
So they're the same for any kind of project. And I don't know if blocking wires consider notions, but
Oh,
I can't live without them. Like I block almost everything. Like I can't think of an example of things I don't block.
yeah.
Whatever goes off my needles gets blocked. And I use wires for like almost everything because I find them faster, easier, they hold the shape. You can make straight lines, you can put just the points on those wires. So I do everything with my blocking wires. I recommend them to everyone.
I actually went out and bought some because I had the what do the T pins.
Right. But it just like it makes your life so much easier to do
Yeah,
the
because all you do is just thread it like like
like
a
it's
thread.
literally
Just
yeah,
thread it through and just stick
yeah.
it to the mat, and
It
it's
takes
done.
minutes versus like measuring every inch for the pins. So
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Do you have a special tapestry needle, or do you use just
yeah,
any tapestry?
I usually use the blunt tapestry needle for
Mhm.
like hiding the ends. I prefer like hiding the ends with tapestry needle versus the hook, even though sometimes I do use hook for that, but it's usually for like thinner yarn. It's easier to do it with the needle and just whip
Yeah,
stitch.
it is. You've got more control of guiding the needle than you have with a hook, and
And
sometimes
recently I discovered the tip covers for the needles. Like I've never used them before. And now I'm doing a very secret test knit for Jennifer Bill. And
Mhm.
you need to leave like stitches on the needle on. So I'm using like 9 different needles, and each needle has to have 2 stoppers on each side. So like now I became like addicted to the needle
All the
stoppers
different stoppers.
because
I
they
know.
make them adorable ones. They make them really cute.
I
So
know there's so many different cute ones out there, aren't there? I've started quite a collection because obviously I've started doing a lot more knitting. So everything's got they've got hands, or they've got kind of cones, or anything I can get
especially
my
like
hands.
if you work on multiple projects at the same time. Like I'm more monogamous knitter in my nature, so I usually don't have more than like 2 3 projects at the same time. Like 4 stresses me out. But like people like Martin who use like 18 projects at the time. For them, like having a needle stoppers is essential, you know.
Yeah, well, I've got about 10.
Right.
We're all different. So, but at the end of the day, we still get them done. It might take us a bit longer but
Right.
they do get done. And did you, when, the next question is about goals for this year. Did you have any goals set for this year that you wanted to achieve?
Well, I started this series at the end of last year that I called Tips and Tricks on Becoming a Better Knitter.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I started this series is because I was thinking for myself, like, how does one become a better knitter?
Yeah.
And that's my goal for this year, to challenge myself to do projects that scare me usually, try new techniques, try new
Yeah.
things, just like step outside of the box whenever possible.
Yeah, that's a good goal to have, and I think you learn something new every day, whether it's your knitting or your crocheting. There's always something new to learn, even if you've been knitting for many years. Even I'm still learning new things every time I pick up a new pattern, say, you
Right.
know, and that. So yeah, and it keeps it fresh. It keeps you interested in what you're doing as well, and you think, oh, I've learned this today. I didn't
Well,
know
I
how to.
also noticed that a lot of techniques have bad reputation. So you
Mm-hmm.
take sticking or interlock or intarsia, or or even like knitting fair isle.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are afraid of technique just because they think, I mean, brioche is another one of those notoriously bad reputation, right? And a lot of times when you actually try the technique, it's not as bad at all, because if you think about knitting, it's sort of like music, there is 8 notes, and you can play anything from Mary Had a Little Lamb to second concerto of Rachmaninoff with the
Mm-hmm.
same 8 notes. It's just a matter of time, practice, trying different techniques, putting your effort into it, right? So the knitting is like absolutely the same. You have your knit purl, knit two together, slip slip knit three together, yarn over. That's it. Like basically all the stitches covered by some sort of combination of those.
Yeah.
If you know the basics, there is really nothing that should stop you from trying something more difficult. It
No.
just, the thing is, like, we're very kind to others, right? We're very encouraging to others. We don't think it's a big deal if they make a mistake, but yet when it comes to ourselves, we're like super critical.
Oh yeah, we are. We are our own worst enemies, and brioche is one of my challenges to learn this year because I've never done it before. So I've got the workshop from Stephen West, which I haven't started yet because I've got so many other things. But that's something that I'm going to be doing this year.
I mean, as long as you understand like why you're doing certain things,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to learn anything. So if you're not just trying to blindly repeat after someone, but you're trying to understand why we're doing it the way we're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
you can understand any technique, because it's knitting at the end of the day. It's not that complicated.
No, and it's as with everything, it's practice, isn't it? The more you practice, and the more you practice, and the memory of your hands, the hands they remember.
Right.
It's just the motion with the hands, the more practice, and then it kind of, and also reading your pattern, reading your knitting, not only reading a pattern, but reading actually what you've actually knitted, so that you can, after you've been knitting this pattern for so long, because you're reading your work as well as the pattern, you can just continue on with the pattern.
I have a funny story about brioche. I interviewed the Serbian crochet designer Lubomir Kostin in January.
Mm-hmm.
So during the interview, his wife taught him how to crochet, and he crochets the most amazing, like fantastic toys. He does like dragons and ants and what have you.
Yeah.
So during the interview, I asked him if he ever considered knitting things. And he said, I want to learn, I just don't know where to start. And so I gave him a couple channels that do tutorials for beginning knitting. And he posted a picture of brioche scarf that he working on last week.
Wow.
So you can definitely do brioche.
One of the hardest things to do as a beginner knitter. Wow.
So just saying, you can do brioche. Like if he can do brioche, you can do brioche. It's not that difficult.
No. It's like everything. The more you practice and the more you take the time and not rush it. Just take it as at your own pace, and it's not a competition, really, is it? It's you do what, how, and when you can do it, and that. So, yeah. And I see Ursula has asked a question that I just want to quickly pick up on. Ursula says, what do you do with all your creations? Do you keep it all, or do you make for other people or donate?
Well, about 90% of everything I make is being gifted to my friends. Sometimes they can be online friends, sometimes they're friends in real life. I don't keep much of what I make. I also do a lot of giveaways. So sometimes I'll give away a shawl that I need. Sometimes somebody will tell me some story that somebody could use a shawl, and I'll just send it to total stranger just because they could use it.
Yeah.
I don't sell my things because I just feel like we're not getting compensated enough in this industry to sell hand knits, unfortunately.
No, I know. Mm-hmm.
I also do wear a lot of things I make. So there are definitely some favorites that I don't
You keep, yeah. Like that one, I will never, ever part with that. I've done quite a few shawls. I've donated a couple of my shawls. I've gifted some, and I've also actually sold one.
Right.
So,
Well, that one I gave to a very dear friend of mine who actually, she was the person who made me think about knitting, because she's been knitting all her life. And every time I would come visit her, I would see some new creation of hers. So I was like, well, maybe I'll try it. So since she inspired me to give knitting a try, I gave her and she's a huge fan of Stephen West. So when I finished my shawl, I gave it to her.
Oh, I bet she was absolutely delighted with it.
She loves it, yeah.
I'm still working. I'm still working on my hibernate along the Aurora cabin, but it'll get done. There's no rush. Just take your time.
Embrace your pace.
Yes, that's the word. That's what Martin always says. Embrace your pace. Alice says, have you thought of an auction to donate the money to charity of your makes?
Yeah, it's a great idea. I'm actually also looking for charities to interview to bring more awareness to them. And right now I'm doing a fundraiser for Need for Food. So if you guys wanna look into that, it's like on my Instagram, you can see the post about it. So there's a lot of leaders who raising money and awareness for there's 4 charities that involved in that. 3 of them donate money for food in the US, and 1 is international.
Mm-hmm.
So they helping like now with the victims of the earthquake in Turkey, for example. So
yes, yeah. Oh, that's good. And guys, everybody in the chat, all of Irina's links are in the description box below this video, this live, or when it's a video. So all of Irina's links are in the description box below. And please do join her on Instagram as well. She does a lot of postings on Instagram, so check her out, please. So that's good. I do hats for the homeless here in my hometown in the UK, and I've donated to baby, neonatal unit in the baby. So yeah, I kind of gift mine, like yourself. Whatever I make, I either gift them or donate them, to charities and that.
There's
So
a lot of wonderful charities out there who,
yeah,
tutors for raising money or making things. So it's great.
yeah, there is. Alice says, excellent, thank you. I'll check it out. So for you personally, what is your greatest achievement so far?
It's funny. Like, I went to World Knitting Live this past weekend, and I was talking to a lot of people who I interview on my channel.
Yes.
Many of them were saying how, like, being on my channel really changed a lot for them, because they, through this interview, they've met other fiber artists or other yarn dyers, and suddenly there were like all these new collaborations. Like, it
Yeah.
opened doors for the fiber artists that were on my channel. And from the very beginning, my goal was, I mean, as much as I adored interviewing Stephen West, that was never the goal. That was a dream. That was not the goal. The goal was to spotlight some of the amazing, talented fiber artists that you might not know otherwise. So
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people through Instagram, like through social media. So for me, when I see somebody that catches my attention by their uniqueness, by something like that you don't see every day, I ask them for the interviews. So for me to hear that being on my channel actually helped them grow, like, honestly, that feels like the biggest achievement. So when I
Yeah.
see the fiber chat stars collide and they create some new, projects together, or they work together, it just warms my heart. So I love seeing that. And when I came to Vogue again, it was for the first time when, I mean, I met a lot of fans. So people who watched the channel would come and say hi to me, and they would take pictures, and it was absolutely wonderful. But the fact that I also got to meet people whom I interview in real life, like, that was really different for
Mind
me.
blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And you kind of, and as somebody who watches your channel, it was nice for me to learn about other, fiber artists, dyers, and that, I met Martin, Katie, and Needles at the Ready, the Grocery Girls. There's so many different and talented people out there, and YouTube is so vast that you don't always get to see these amazing artists, but by you doing what you've done, you're doing, and you continue doing, is it's bringing them to our notice as well, which is
Well, and it's also like part of being a community, right? It's not
yeah,
all about, when you think about designers, you think they're competing with each other. When you think about yarn dyers, you think they're competing with each other. But there's so many like opportunities for collaboration.
oh yeah,
And
definitely,
to me, it's always like everything I do is community over competition. that's
yeah,
that's why we collaborating on this channel, right? Like, you came to my channel, I'm coming to your channel, like, because if I help you grow, you help me grow. It's like we all help each other, and we all
yeah,
becoming a stronger and better community from it. And that was
definitely.
one of the reasons we, like, you member of the Knitters Gonna Knit on Facebook as well, right? So that group, David Van de Kemp and I, we started that group because we were tired of other Facebook groups not allowing any mentioning of new patterns or any mentioning of new yarn. So we were talking, and I said, well, why won't we start our own group where we actually encourage self-promotion? And it's 21,000 now, 21,000
Yeah,
members. And you can see the posts there. It's like people advertise their new patterns, people advertise the new yarn colors, and then they collaborate with each other. So to me, this is like building this community and helping people to find connections. It's
yeah.
like absolutely priceless. It feels like the biggest achievement.
And it is, I mean, and at the end of the day, this community is so supportive isn't it? It's one of the most amazing, supportive communities, you know, and it's such an honor really to be a part of that community. And you know as well that if you've got a question, or you know, kind of in your Facebook group, if you've got a question and you just put it, the response is amazing. You know, the help is just, it's there for you without
And it's
having to.
immediate because people are from like literally every corner of the world in that group. And so somebody is available 24/7. Like somebody is online in the group available to help you at any time of the day or night.
Yeah, exactly, because we're all on different time zones. So it could be midnight for me, but it'll be kind of, you know, early evening for you know, for people in America, or you know.
What's interesting, like when I started, so I started in mid-January, I started Shetland Lace Knit Along on Fiber Chat's group on Ravelry. And I thought it's going to be like, you know, me and 20 other people, and we're going to have this cozy little chats, you know, and it's 530 something people now.
Wow.
So, which is like, if you think about it, right, to find 530 people who willing to try their hand at Shetland Lace, it's amazing already. But the best thing about it is that, again, because there are people from Australia, there are people from South Africa, there are people from Europe, from America, from Canada, there is somebody available to answer questions. So it doesn't have to be me. And actually, most of the questions are not answered by me. It's answered by the member of the community, one or another, you know. So somebody is there, always available for help. And it's
Yeah.
like supportive group, you know, that came out from just like, who wants to knit with me kind of thing.
Yeah, like, of course, when you did it at the end of last year, and I thought, oh, that is something that I've always wanted to try. So even though it's parked at the moment, it will get finished this year. And Sarah Moo says, have you ever been beaten by a knitting pattern and not been able to complete it?
Yeah, there is one that's looking at me accusingly.
Why haven't you finished me yet?
I started, there's this one pattern, it's called Shetland Stars. It's by A Passion for Lace. And so she has two versions. One is the rectangular version and one is a square. And I wanted to make a square. And I made 4 edgings and borders. So the only thing that's left is the center. And I just can't find myself, like, can't do it for some reason. It's more mental than like physically. Like if I was able to, because the borders in Shetland Lace are always more difficult than the center. So like I know that technically I'm capable. It just like been parked there for like over a year or 2 years. I can't even remember, and haven't finished that one yet. still on the list.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll get finished at some point in the future, when it'll just look at you one day and you'll think, right, come on, let's get you sorted. But it's not yet. Not yet. It's going to stay there for a bit yet. So, well, my last question for you today is, what is your top tip for beginners?
I think if you don't know how difficult something is, then it's not difficult. So the reason I started knitting Shetland Lace, and I started knitting Shetland Lace probably like less than a year into learning how to knit and purl.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason was I saw a picture on Instagram of Shetland Lace shawl. I haven't heard about Shetland Lace. I decided to check it out. I went to my local library. The only book they had was Elizabeth Lovick's book, The Magical Shetland Lace. I looked at the cover and it had this beautiful heart stole on the cover. And I said, oh, it's so beautiful. I want to knit it. And I knitted it. So if you don't know that something's supposed to be difficult, you're not afraid. It's like kids, you know, like kids are willing to learn. They like willing to try, to give it a try. They might not necessarily manage it, but they're willing to give it a try. So everything that you think about knitting, like forget all the notions, forget that sticking supposed to be difficult, forget that brioche supposed to be difficult. Just try it. Like how bad can it be?
At the end of the day, you can frog it and start again.
Well, when I interviewed Suzanne Bryan on my channel, she gave this analogy. She said, if you're going to a movie and you're spending $20 for tickets and $10 on popcorn, at the end of the 2 hours, you have nothing left. You spend $30. If you buy a skein of yarn for $30, you can knit it for a week. And then if you don't like it, you can unravel it and you can knit it for another week, So like it's $30 entertainment value that lasts you much longer. So look at it that way.
Yeah, and that's very true. And that's a good
analogy.
That's it. Yeah, I'll let you say it. I can't say. I don't know what's the matter with my teeth today. They're not working at all. So, yeah, that is a really good tip. Don't go in looking for difficulty when you want to do something. Don't look at it as being difficult.
Well, I want to give another tip for when it comes to my channel. So if you guys are new to my channel, it can be overwhelming because there's over 200 interviews and it just like, I'll never get through it. So the reason I did it that way is I'm treating my channel as a library of fiber talent. Yeah. So when you come to the library, you have the reference. So the same thing with fiber chats. When you come to fiber chats, there are playlists. So you can see playlists for crocheters, for knitters, for people who do embroidery, people who do quilting. There's like all different kinds of fiber arts. So pick a playlist that interests you, scroll through it, see if somebody catches your eye, and treat it just as a library. You don't have to watch, it's not sequence kind of interviews. You don't have to watch all of them. You can just find 1 or 2 interviews that catch your attention. There are also some episodes on things to do with mini skeins. There are some episodes on, there's even a cooking show. If you want to watch a cooking show, there is 1 year anniversary cooking show there where Martin makes his famous roasted chicken. So yeah, there is something for everyone on that channel. So just look through the playlist, see if something catches your eye. And also, if you on Facebook, join Knitters Gonna Knit. It's a great group and you can post all your projects there, or you can post something about your knitting related business. And,
even your channel as well. If you want to share a video that, if you've done a podcast or you've done a tutorial, you can post it in the group and that. And the ladies and gents in the group are very, very helpful.
Yeah, it's a very diverse group of knitters there. So we have people from like every continent pretty much, probably except for Antarctica. So everybody's there, And also, if you're interested in becoming a better knitter or challenging yourself, or if you have done glaze before, join the knit along that I have in Fiber Chats group on Ravelry. There are tutorials for it. There are a lot of supportive knitters there, so they can teach you some new things to you. And you're gonna, and it's a year-long knit along, so you're not too late. You can start now, and you'll finish eventually.
Yeah, mine's in the garage, guys. Mine's in the garage until I'm of a better frame of mind to pick it up. I've done the first 50 rows. How many more have I got to do? Another 11 patterns, and then I've done.
It's almost there.
It's almost there. I've only got 10 more to do.
The first 50 are the most difficult. Once you get the first 50, the rest is just repeats, So
yeah. So thank you so much, Irina. I really enjoyed that, and it's really nice for me to get to know you better. And I'm just going to ask if anybody's got any questions for Irina. And if you have, can you just put a question mark and then put your question? That would be awesome. And thank you to everybody who's here as well. It's lovely to see you all here, and thank you for joining us. It's been, I did my live on Wednesdays at 5 o'clock. Well, it's 12 noon Eastern. I do a live, so I cut it short so I can do the interview today. So
thank you for being for adjusting to my schedule. That was
Oh
lovely.
no, that's not a problem, not a problem. And if I can, adjust the time for the interview, I will do so. Don't worry. I'm just glad I was able to do that for you, and you were able to attend, because I know you have to go and pick your son up.
Well, I can't wait to see your interview with my buddy Martin. So that's good.
I know. I'm looking, but that is going to be hilarious. And then I'm lucky enough then that I go meet him at the East Anglia show in 17th and 18th of March. So I do the interview with him on the 15th of March, and then I'll meet him then on the Friday night. There's
a hug for me. So just
I will
from me.
Nixie Licks wants to know, I would love some advice on productivity or getting yourself to feel ready to work on things.
It's tough because, it depends on how much time you have and how much joy you get out of it. I say don't push it. Like, it's not about being productive. It's about really enjoying what you're doing. And I actually, like, when it comes to lace specifically, I often say slow down and just stop and admire your lace for a bit, because that teaches you how to read your knitting, and that teaches you how to spot mistakes really fast. So sometimes, like, if we're talking about speed of knitting, there are tricks, right? Like there are certain techniques, like holding your needles closer to the tips will make you faster. Not making, like, if you but it again, if you slow down and you watch your knitting and you ask yourself, is that motion necessary? Is it necessary for me to go all the way like this, or can I just do it? Can I minimize my movements, right? So in any technique, in flicking, in throwing, in continental and Portuguese, you can minimize your movement, and that's going to make you faster. But in order to do that, you need to slow down and see what you're doing, and like learn to read your knitting. And spotting mistakes, preventing mistakes is much more proficient than actually fixing the mistakes. Like, if you can avoid fixing mistakes, right, by spotting them early enough, it's gonna make you much more productive. So it's all about, and sometimes you just have to live with a mistake. Like, if it's a little mistake that nobody else but you gonna spot, we call it beauty mark.
Yes, it is. It's a beauty spot. Ursula says, what do you crochet when you do get to crochet, Irina?
I do a lot of the amigurumi toys. So I had the whole period of time when I was crocheting a lot of toys, and one of them I made this beautiful panda. It was like almost like this size. It was like big, like 60 centimeters height. So I did it. A friend of mine had her first chemo for breast cancer, and she loves pandas. She used to watch pandas on live screen from the zoo. So I decided, like, what makes comfortable, and I made her that panda. So I like making toys for, like, kids and adults alike, because like everybody likes a toy. And that's one of the things you said, like, about knitting community being so supportive. We work with such like warm, cozy materials that it makes us warm and cozy people by default.
Exactly. With squishy, soft, scrumptious yarn, so that makes us soft and scrumptious too. And Sierra said, thank you, lovely advice, thank you. Soxy Nana Alice says, do you have a favorite commercial yarn for wearable kids gifts?
I don't have like absolutely anything against acrylic yarns, because my oldest son, who is actually, like, if you look at my Instagram, you might spot him a lot. He models a lot of my knitwear. He's allergic to wool. so he can model it for 5 minutes, but he can't wear it. So whatever I make, I just go to Michael's and I just touch them, like, and I just buy whatever yarn is soft and I make him stuff with acrylic, So
yeah.
The thing is, like, I don't want to name brands because, like, I usually go by touch whatever feels good at the moment.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to how Martin will be, because when I told Martin I was interviewing you today, he said, "Oh, so you're interviewing Irina before me?" And I went, "Yeah."
It's very competitive, but then we all know, who does things first.
I know.
Love
So
that.
thank you all so very much for being here. Thank you and welcome to everybody who joined us. Thank you to Irina for being here and letting me be the interview rather than the interviewee.
That was wonderful, actually. Thank you. I enjoyed that.
Did you enjoy it? After being so nervous, I'm glad you enjoyed it. So that's all from us for today, guys. Thank you so much for being here and take care.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Bye.